Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
So E3, or what feels like E3, I can't tell when E3 is and when it isn't this year, but
Sure.
a week worth of cool conferences has ended.
Yes.
So we're just going to kind of talk through our general impressions of what happened this past week, as well as kind of some games that stuck out to us. We might miss some big ones in here, but these were kind of, as we were looking back, these things stuck in our brains for what was cool and what was interesting to us. So your general thoughts about weird E3 this year? I mean, neither one of us is cool enough to be able to go to E3, so it's really not much different than what we've ever experienced before.
I'm so glad you said that because I've listened to a lot of video game podcasts. Like, this was the strangest E3 ever. I was like, it's kind of like most E3s I've had, just more indie stuff. But like everyone else is like, this is so crazy. It's the strangest E3. I was like, no, you just experienced what's E3 for the paupers. Like,
Yeah, you get the cool version of E3, and the rest of us just, oh, they didn't have crowds in their videos. Huh.
Yeah.
that's the difference.
I didn't think it was that weird in E3, to be honest. I just thought there was like more indies than normal, but like besides that, I don't know. It's still like a pretty normal E3. Not an amazing one by any means, but it was like,
no,
it was fine.
But I did the same thing. I was like, oh, 4 o'clock, I should probably turn the TV on and watch this.
Yeah.
Okay, that was okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's your we're not cool update. So anyway, I was kind of like not overly blown away this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with COVID and COVID's impact on a lot of development and people working from home and adjusting to that. So I think a lot of stuff kind of got bumped, and there's a lot of this like hesitancy of like saying anything about when stuff's coming out just because there is still so much up and down. So I just kind of felt like there was normally I feel like I've got like 5 games where it's like my mind is blown about these games, like, oh my God. And it's like I had a hard time coming up with like more than 2 or 3 where I'm like, this game is going to be incredible. Lots of like, that looks pretty cool stuff, but
Oh yeah.
I feel like there wasn't that big feeling of like, oh my God, that I feel like I normally get for E3.
Well, it's funny because I think Microsoft had a few, and the thing I was thinking about is like PlayStation released theirs before E3.
True.
You know what I mean? Like Returnal and Ratchet, and like let's just say some PS5 games in general, like those big next gen games have already essentially come out. So
True.
Xbox had theirs, where it's like, okay, they had some cool big stuff there, but like PlayStation's like, well, we just released all of ours, so who knows when they're going to do like the next big thing. So then, like, besides them, I mean, didn't Capcom also I feel like Capcom released something fairly. Oh, they did Resident Evil 8. Like that was their big next gen game. So it feels like everybody kind of like fired off their big next gen game already, and then it's like, well, we now have this. We got to start building our next gen games again.
Well, and I feel like that's a good point because I feel like everything that was almost wrapped up pre-COVID is out now, and everything else that was like heavy middle of development period is like, oh God, all right, let's pause and see where we're even at right now. Let's not stress about getting this out there. So I do feel like that's kind of maybe what happened a little bit, but
I could definitely see that.
But yeah. And Horizon did have that big blowout like 2 weeks ago where they did that big Horizon thing too. So that obviously kind of counts, doesn't, but
exactly. And that's where it kind of feels like we sort of already got that stuff, but like, and so it kind of made E3 feel like a little bit emptier. But I think it's just weird because like, I think like so some of the big third parties weren't really firing huge guns. Like Capcom, what if it was like a one? I think if Capcom and Square had like 2 really big announcements that were mind blowing, like, that probably would have been like a normal E3, to be totally honest.
If we saw an update on 16, if Capcom had more than a screen worth of Resident Evil 8 DLC or something like that,
and if Final Fantasy Origins didn't suck, you know, it would have been a whole. I'm kidding. No,
you're not.
I did not enjoy that very much.
We'll get there. So let's just jump into some games. We'll start with the biggest one.
Absolutely.
I think this would be the one if we were to kind of agree on like game that we're both excited about. This has to be the one. That is of course A Plague Tale 2 Requiem, which
so good.
Plague Tale 1 is insanely good for what it is, and it's so much fun. It's the weirdest game. This one got a budget though.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited.
If you haven't played Plague Tale 1, it's that like perfect like mid-tier game where you're like, ooh, they could have used a little more time, a little more money, but what they're doing with what they got is incredible.
Yeah, I always feel like with like Plague Tale, I feel like everybody's kind of interested in playing Plague Tale 1, but like, I don't know, man. It's not, if you're just like even halfway interested in playing that game, go play that game. Just do it. It's on Game Pass. Just go get your $10 Game Pass or whatever and play a Plague Tale. It's a game that's way better than it has any right to be. Mechanically, it's okay, but it does some really good storytelling stuff. And This was my jaw dropping announcement of E3. Like I literally did the jaw drop thing as I was watching because I wasn't sure what it was until like the big. I love that trailer too of like the plague of this.
Yeah,
it's like a
swarming
wave of them coming down. I was like, that's awesome. That game's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so good. Yeah, it's gonna be better than Breath of the Wild. No, I'm just
kidding. You will like it better than Breath of the Wild, Doug, is the correct answer there. Mm-hmm. I did like kind of that they focus maybe on the brother a little bit more, like because again, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but what happens with him at the end of the game is clearly being referenced a lot in the voiceover in this trailer, and so there's some interesting ways they could go there.
Yeah.
So we started with that because this next game, I made the list of games, and about 30 seconds before we started recording this, Doug went, "There's something you're missing. There's something you're saying." Like, no, every important game is on here. Like, you didn't put Elden Ring on this list.
Hey man, they said it's gonna be easier this time, so it might be up your alley.
So,
they said it's gonna be easier, and they said like Dark Souls 3, which I thought was very funny.
I didn't even listen that much. I saw like I was watching Jeff Keighley's thing, and I literally was like, he was like getting like all like almost like teared up, which I thought was like, okay, that's like,
that's really funny.
That's pretty intense, but okay. I literally was like, oh, it's Elden Ring. I was like, ooh, this looks really. Oh, it's Elden Ring. But that looks so. Oh, but it's Elden Ring.
That reminds me of the time I think they showed the Demon Souls reveal, and then you were like super into it, and then you realize like at the end when the Demon Souls like logo came up, you're like, oh shit.
Yep. I knew nothing about Demon Souls, and I was, God damn it. But yeah, it was the same reaction where it's like this game I would be so into if it wasn't for the fact that is what it is. Like if you were to change the name at the end of this trailer and take From Software out of it, this would have been one of my favorite trailers I saw. But it's like knowing what it is, like not gonna play it. Sorry,
yeah,
I tried
that.
so many, not gonna do it. So
I think like as like a Souls fan, I think this one just looked really. I think just the monster design and stuff looked like cooler than it normally does. Because even after like Dark Souls 3 has some like cool monster stuff, but this one it just felt like they're going crazier and crazier and crazier. And that was the thing that kind of stood out for me. It did look a little too much like Dark Souls, I think, to me. But I think like the enemy design and stuff like really stuck out. I don't really care if it's open world or not. I just kind of care if it's another From Software game. I do feel like it's kind of the thing like they're good at just making those types of games, and it felt like one of those types of games. But I'm excited to pre-order that type of game and then play it day one. So yeah, and if you're not into it, and that's the thing that sucks. It's so cool all the time, but if you're just not into it or just like don't like hard games, it's just totally shut off to you. That's just what it is. Yeah.
I will say the second they announced that, you know what, we're putting an easy mode in, done, pre-order.
Yeah. They did say it would be slightly easier than other ones, so that might.
Considering I have not made it more than like 2 hours into any of the other ones, slightly easier implies that I'll make it 4 hours. So
sure.
Anyway, fair. But I mean, yes, congratulations to all of you on Elden Ring. I'm glad you're all happy. The biggest game of E3 is something that I know I just can't touch.
Yeah.
So moving on here. One that I didn't realize, this actually got announced 5 years ago. I was looking at stuff. Yeah, it was announced in 2017. I had no clue, but Somerville.
There's gonna be a lot of clicking of me looking for trailers.
I don't think there was a trailer. I think when they announced that some of the people left Playdead, who's the studio who does Limbo and Inside, they kind of like left and announced, "Hey, we're working on this game called Somerville," and that was really all I saw from it. So it was like just like, here's what we're doing, and then here we are 5 years later, and got a really cool trailer for it. Alien invasion kind of vibes to it. Family stuff, which I think is a really interesting turn since Limbo and Inside are so isolated and so focused on your singular person kind of running through this thing.
I didn't think about that, yeah.
That this one now, okay, we've got like this little family running through all this, how that affects them. It looks amazing. I thought it looked really, really good. A nice next step up from Inside.
Yeah, it's funny because Somerville is a town where I live, like town near where I live. And I was super excited. I was like, holy shit. It's actually about the Somerville in UK, which is different. So
so close. So close. I mean,
so close. So, yeah.
Every time there's a game set somewhere near where I live, it's never does justice anyway. So it's like, okay, you used the name, great.
The other thing that I didn't like about Somerville is like it looked so close to Inside. Was like one of my impressions. I was like, oh, is this like, oh, this is like by the guys who did Inside, right? It's actually not by Playdead Studios, but it's by one of the guys who did Inside.
Yeah, because he left.
It felt like a little too close, but then again, like Inside to me is like a perfect game, so I guess this one's gonna be okay too.
How dare you copy a game that I find perfect and try and do more of that?
Exactly. And you're the guy who made it.
Yeah, it does also give me kind of those vibes of like, okay, you know what, like we're gonna put a little bit more story in here, we're gonna make it a little bit more of a narrative focus. Just with the family kind of gives me that vibe that like, okay, we have to have some interaction here going on, versus Inside Limbo where it's really just kind of you going like, where am I, what is this, what's this weird stuff that's going on, this looks okay, we're gonna simplify it down, alien invasion, family, stay alive.
Yeah, Inside Limbo is definitely more of like an implied narrative, and this one looks like a little bit more explicit, which is it's just kind of neat. Yeah.
Riders Republic.
Yes,
you added this to the list.
I did, because I didn't expect to like it. I was expecting to be like, I was like, oh ho ho, show me, Mr. Riders Republic, let's see what you got. And then they just showed an EA big game, and I was like, oh okay, that was all you needed to do. It just looks like a lot of games I really liked as a kid. It looks like SSX. It looks like Downhill Domination, which is a PS2 downhill biking game by Sony that nobody played. That was really fun. It just looks like a mix of a lot of those sort of like games. Even like when they showed the trick system in like it looked like the trick system from SXX, and I just really liked that. And I thought that was, and I liked that it was kind of an open world thing. I guess that didn't really matter. The thing I thought was really cool though is because some of the tracks of like your biking track might overlay a track that they're using for plane race, or not plane, but sky diving ones. It was cool because they'll run the races at the same time. So like you'll see guys on bikes, and overhead there's another race going on over your head. Yeah. So it looks like a lot of different races will be kind of crisscrossing over each other, and just I'm sure it doesn't affect anything gameplay wise, but I just thought aesthetically that was just a neat idea of seeing like two totally separate races going at once.
Kind of similar to the isolated nature of like Inside Limbo versus Somerville, where it's like, okay, like I'm not just the only 5 people on this mountain right now, there's other stuff happening. It makes that whole world feel more alive, which I think is again kind of a next gen thing, having recently just finished up Ratchet and Clank, where like just populating worlds and making more stuff happen at once, I think is definitely a good next step to go in to make things more fully realized.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you didn't like about it specifically is they do this Ubisofting, I guess you could just call it games. Like every Ubisoft game has like a store that just sort of like fucks everything up, where it's like, go to the store to get cooler, like you can customize your character, but you want the cool looking stuff, check out the Ubisoft store. It's like, oh hey, you got those like cool credits to buy, this cool helmet. It's like, well, that's just a taste of the helmets you can get on the Ubisoft store. Or like it felt like that was just all over this game.
And that's my thing, is because it does have those SSX vibes, which I loved. It does have like some Tony Hawk hints and things like that. And the thing with those games is it's just like I turn that on and I am playing a race within like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Pick my generic character, pick them with the best stats. Let's go. I want somebody with more speed for this one. Pick that guy. Let's go. I don't have time to sit here and do all this custom stuff. Drives me insane. So it's one of those things where like that Ubisoftness of it, of like that we need to have so much jammed in here. It's like, no, just Tony Hawk 1 and 2 is perfect. Sorry.
Yeah. Like the thing is, like, I even like customization if it's like really fast and snappy, but there's something about Ubisoft customization that just feels like nefarious. Like every time, it's just loot boxes. It's the stuff that ruined that new Trials game, which I otherwise enjoyed, except for weird Ubisoft shit.
Yep. Just again with the same thing. Put me on my bike. Give me 3 options. Let me go.
Yeah.
I don't need all this other stuff.
And now I'll introduce this one because Brad's been introducing them about the games that I like, and then I get to talk about, and then Brad doesn't talk about.
Hey, Brad, Somerville Plague Tale.
That's true. Brad, tell me why I should care about Halo Infinite.
All right, so here's where Halo Infinite's at. Mm-hmm. The multiplayer, I am 100% in on. Like, I have not invested myself in a multiplayer game in like years. Like,
sure,
I couldn't even name you the last one. But like this looks, and they did like a 10 or 15 minute like just like deep dive into the multiplayer.
Yeah.
And so much of it is like, okay, we're gonna pull what worked from like 2 and 3, those early Bungie ones, combine it with some of the stuff we were doing with 5, kind of add all this together. And it looks so good. It's a lot of it looks like that old school stuff. And I know, because again, they kind of talked about it, layering in like battle pass and customs, blah, 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 blah. But just like the actual gameplay, part of me was concerned, like, okay, how are we going to move this into a battle royale, a Warzone, a Fortnite, all those like uber popular moneymaker things? But this looks like, no, you know what? We're going to stick with what works for Halo. And we're going to roll with it. We're going to improve on it. We're not going to drastically change things to meet the times that are now. We're going to make this multiplayer that like still would have fit 10 years ago with some modernization in it.
Yeah, okay, so that was the big thing. Because I'm just interested because there's just Halo's multiplayer has gone on like 7 iterations. Was there something about this iteration versus Halo 5 or versus Halo 4? Or is it just like, hey, we're going back to Halo 2, 3? That kind of just perked your ears?
I think like as soon as you reference those, it perks my ears a little bit, but also just seeing it. And again, I think even like Halo 5, like I played a ton of Halo 5's multiplayer. Like there's a lot wrong with that game, but the multiplayer was still fun. So it takes a lot to mess up Halo multiplayer, I think. So that's always going to go. And it looks really good. Everything about it looked like what I wanted.
And so, and then like, so they also showed some like single player. Well, not even, they didn't really show some single player stuff. They showed cuts.
Shit.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, because I just didn't have any context for the cutscene. Like I kind of understand Cortana bad now, but was there anything about that cutscene that made you go ooh, or is
no?
Like, it was just okay. All right, that's fine.
So campaign, because like again, like at one point years and years ago, like I had my stack of like my 4 or 5 Halo novels. Like I was playing the game, I was in it, and it's like the only thing like that trailer is the first thing that popped to my mind is I believe it's the Halo 2 trailer. It has like the iconic line of like him in the ship and he's like, "Where are you going, Chief? Where are you going?" Giving them their bomb back as he jumps out of the ship holding like a bomb. And in this,
wow.
it's so good. It's so good. Like 2006 levels.
Sure,
it was
okay,
fantastic.
that makes sense. Yeah.
But then like, so this one, they're like, it felt so much like they're trying to do the same thing. Cause there's a scene where the one scene is him like going through and it's just like, I only need one bullet. Or something like that. And you're just like, oh, God, it worked 15 years ago, Chief. Sorry, man. The rest of us grew up a little bit. But no, I think just like in 5 had a lot with Cortana. There's so much focused around Cortana that's just beyond not interesting at this point.
Sure.
That it's like you're beating a dead horse here.
Yeah.
And again, we haven't seen anything of it. And what we saw last year was just so bleh. That I feel like you needed to show something to actually get me excited about this campaign other than like not great CG trailer.
I do like that they're like, how about we talk about the multiplayer, guys?
I could very easily see what happens is going like, okay, multiplayer launch this holiday. Campaign, yep, coming out next June-ish.
Yeah. Sure.
But Halo Infinite is technically out because the multiplayer is out. So there you go, guys. We didn't miss it for sure. Twice.
That's funny.
But anyway, multiplayer is free to play, so I'll definitely play it. There you go. Replaced. This is another weird, tiny one that I know literally nothing about the studio, nothing about anything with this one, other than it's kind of a 2D side-scrolling looking thing that looks like cyberpunky and Blade Runner, and just amazing looking art, like really good art style to it.
Yeah, I think the thing that's kind of cool, I think the one that's really stood out about this one, it's like, there's a few games that did this. I think The Last Night was kind of, it's not the first one, definitely one of the more popular ones where it's like, let's do pixel art that's not constrained to whatever old thing it was inspired by. Like, because like people are trying to make games that look like SNES games, look like early PlayStation games. It's like, what if we just use modern day shader technology on pixel art and what does that look like? And it turns out it looks insane. It looked really, really cool. I think it was like I just couldn't get a good impression of besides that it looked really cool, because honestly, if it didn't look really cool, like a side-scrolling cyberpunk game would just kind of be like put that on the side-scrolling cyberpunk game pile. But it looked pretty.
It looked good, and again, it did some cool camera work too that I thought was interesting. I couldn't tell if it was like following with the combat that was happening or if it was just kind of bouncing a little bit, but did some weird camera tricks on there too that I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it looks really slick. I hope it's as good as it looks because it looks insane.
Yes.
And not even just like technically, it looks also just like the art style itself, like just the characters. Like you can make a cool pixel art, but like your character design actually looks really good as well on top of that, as opposed to just being a pretty thing to look at. It just looked really sick.
Yeah. But I think that's where it is. It's 2022, so I'm guessing that's kind of the stage they're at. Is okay, looks pretty. Check that box. All right, what's up next?
Yeah, exactly. You did a good trailer and
Had good
I'll
intro.
check reviews later.
Step 1 to successful game launch.
Yeah.
All right. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
I was ready to be blown away by this. I was hoping to be blown away by this. Like, I love me some Marvel nonsense. I have played all the Avengers expansions, even though I hate that game.
Oh, really? That's funny. I didn't realize you actually got into it. I know you own it. I didn't realize you like were following.
Oh no! Every time there's like new character, I'm there. Ultimate Alliance 3 so good, and so I was just like, okay, like we learned our lesson from Avengers. We're focusing single player. Check. As that's all we learned. Okay. Because like the first thing that struck me is like it has the same problem that I think Avengers has, which is it looks like the MCU heroes, but it's clearly not. And I feel like that's one of those things that kind of messed Avengers up initially is like, we tried to model this after Robert Downey Jr., but that's not Robert Downey Jr. He doesn't sound like him, doesn't look like him, not the same universe. And it's just, I think there's so many different styles that comics have that just trying to model these games after the like, not generic, but like the instant, I think Star-Lord, I picture red leather jacket. And obviously as in comics and stuff like that, but
yeah.
I think there's ways to be more creative than just making the character look basically the same.
But the thing, I guess the question I have, because I've been thinking about this a bit, is it just because there aren't, if you turn any comic, let's say divorced from the MCU, but if you turn a superhero who, let's say, has not been represented in the MCU, and you make them realistic looking, do they automatically look like they're in the MCU? Do you know what I mean?
Fair point.
Like,
fair point.
Like, unless you're gonna do something like really crazy and stylistic and something I would like that would not sell well. Like, I feel like you're just, as soon as it turns to like, let's make them real people, it's just immediately gonna be like, this looks like the MCU. And I don't disagree with you because it does look like it's the MCU, but I just don't know if that's something inherent. As soon as you turn any superhero character into a realistic thing, they look like they fit in the MCU, but not really, sort of thing.
I do think that's a fair point because I do think that's the way the MCU has succeeded is how do we make this as realistic as possible while still holding true to the comics. And I guess if you're kind of going for that works. But again, to your point, I think with video games specifically, there's a way that we can push that further than we can in like a movie with live action actors. We can go weirder. We can do all these things. We can take some of that in there. So I don't know. But yeah, it just looked fine.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the combat
wasn't funny.
Like, yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, if you're gonna play for the 2 minutes, well, there's like an 11-minute gameplay. For like those 11 minutes, like okay, like I get it. Okay, that's fine. But like 15 hours of that.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's a lot of that. So it's like okay.
But even 11 minutes though, I didn't laugh. Did you? Or I don't know. There's nothing like.
Not really.
I feel like you could make a tight trailer that would make you laugh, but it just didn't.
But I think that comes from showing like 23 minutes of it, or however much of Square's presentation it was. I think part of it comes from that you really could have cut that down to like a 2.5-minute trailer that really blew our minds. Yeah. But because this comes out in October, like you had to give more. Mm-hmm. So I think some of that like quippiness that you would have felt and that quickness and that pace and all of that, like, oh, okay, there's the one line, gets lost in the 23 minutes.
I thought that was way earlier. I didn't realize that was coming out this year.
Yeah,
I was actually like, let's see that in like 2 years. Like, oh, they'll work on the combat a little bit. I realized it was like, oh no, they're done. Okay, cool. That's yeah, it looked rough.
My only other two thoughts on this is you're Star-Lord. Star-Lord has guns. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, and punches people. So it's like I feel like that like that's it for the game. Like there's no, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the combat is just shoot, punch, shoot, punch, shoot, punch. It's not like he's picking up like, and maybe he is in this. Maybe they figured out a way to do it. It's not like somebody where it's like, okay, we're gonna get different guns. It's like he has his little like pistol things. Is that it?
It looked like they just took Mass Effect and Final Fantasy VII stuff, where it's like, I agree with you say. I think like the minute-to-minute stuff, which is kind of like just the sword slashing in Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it's like, it's not that interesting. But like when you're mixing in abilities, I actually thought the ability stuff was pretty cool. That was the thing that made me go,
yes,
ooh, that's neat. But I think that I feel like this game, and I could just looking at the gameplay, it may have this issue that I have with like games where you have a bunch of characters, where it just feels like you're only doing chip damage all the time. Yeah, like very little damage. And it felt like, okay, I'm having 4 characters all pop off cool abilities, in this guy, and we have to do like 3 or 4 cycles of that. So your characters, nobody feels powerful. It's all just everybody's just doing like little bits of damage. It did look neat though. I do like that idea. I like the idea because I really liked it in Mass Effect of like throwing out other characters' abilities, and I think that's where the game's going to be fun. In theory, we'll see. It could be cool. It could be cool.
It does. It has potential. I think, and again, I think part of the other issue with this is they showed 23 minutes and it was all from like the same 2 spots. Yeah, and they showed several of the same clips over and over again. Yeah. So like I think I saw Drax throw a rocket like 4 times in those 23 minutes across like the little chasm there. I think that happened like 4 times.
Yeah, it was a very small chasm. It wasn't a cool throw, but anyway. It's not like he's like chucking him through portals or something like that. It's just like, oh, he threw him about 10 yards. I was like, all right, it's cool. That's fun.
Just a solid football throw. Yeah. All right. Stranger of Paradise. Yeah. Final Fantasy Origins. Now, I'm going to start with mine because mine is quick and easy. Again, Elden Ring. I hate this stuff. I downloaded the demo. I made it through the tutorial. I died by the first goblin that showed up because I did something wrong. I don't know what. Made it through like the first like 3 fights twice. And then I got to like the door where it shot like stuff at you and you had to like slash at the door. I got to that. I did that once, died by the thing after it, and was like, no, I'm good. This is the thing I hate.
This is the thing I should like a lot.
Yes.
And boy, this was just like, it was just really disappointing. I just like in a lot of ways because it's like, because this is made by Nomura, and it seems like, hey guys, I'm doing a versus 13 thing here. We're doing some angry Final Fantasy shit. It's like, okay, cool.
It looks so much like 15 to the point where I'm pretty sure the menu design is copy and pasted out of 15.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think they definitely did some Final Fantasy. Yes, it feels the menus is the only thing that feels really Final Fantasy about it. But I did when I played the demo, I played the demo to the boss to the boss at the end, and then he goes in the second phase. I just didn't get through because the second phase was crazy and I just wasn't having fun at that point. I think there's a few problems I have with this game. One, the art style just looks bad. It looks like a 360. It looks like a very particular 360 game, Xbox 360 game. Is that when Gears of War came out, there's a bunch of weird games that came out after that were kind of Gears of War but just bad, and they all had this weird gray, greenish art style, and they all just generally were not fun to play. Particularly this game called Quantum Theory, which which is about characters going up a tower that it looks exactly like this. It's very strange and was not good. So I think just like the art style, just to me, was just like not having it. And then the actual gameplay itself, though, I think it was too complicated, I feel like, for the type of game it was. So when you play Dark Souls or Bloodborne or something like that, I understand Neo's different. I understand this from the Neo team. Actually, it's not, which is weird. But when I play Dark Souls, the thing I like about Dark Souls and Bloodborne is that there's not a ton of stuff you can do combat-wise. It's a lot about just like knowing when to attack. Mm-hmm. But you actually don't have a lot of moves. You have a handful of. But you don't have a ton. And this one, you just had way, way, way too many moves to do. And I think this is exemplified by the fact that there's 3 ways to block. And that's stupid.
Yes, I couldn't figure that out. And it made me so happy when you told me that you didn't like this, because I was like, I just feel stupid trying to figure this out. Yeah. And a part of me almost feels like, because I know that they did this with Neo stuff, where they released a really early like pre-alpha build of the game online, or like, well, it worked. I almost feel like some of that's in, and I just feel like, hey, did you like this concept of pushing any of these 3 buttons? Which of the 3 blocks did you use? Because it's like, well, we got 3 blocks on the drawing board right now. Throw them all in there, see which one they pick.
Yeah, like there's a normal block, then there's a powered block, and then there is a block that you use to steal people's like things. It's just like, and then every weapon has like a ton of attacks, and then on top of that, I understand it's like a demo, but like your character can switch between 2 jobs. Each job has its own set of armor. So you're picking up armor for like 2 different characters on your character. You're swapping your equipment between the 2. You're swapping between. It's just too complicated, and the game wasn't interesting enough to justify that. Like it wasn't fun. Like going through that stuff at all. The enemy designs weren't cool. It didn't really feel like Final Fantasy, and I don't know. It was just I don't know what it was. It was just not good.
So I guess because to me this would be something that you would be all about between Final Fantasy, kind of that Souls-ish vibe. Is this a like straight back to the drawing board, cut it all, and rebuild from the ground up, or you're like, this is fixable, we just need to piece down the combat? Like, where are you at with this?
I just didn't enjoy like any aspect of it. Even the combat was okay. But I just felt like, again, like the combat was just like too, like Devil May Cry is fun in its complexity, but the game isn't super hard. It can be hard, but it's not like super, super insanely hard where you can kind of like play around in that system.
Yeah.
But if you had this sort of super complex system in one where you need to be doing every move right, it's just, to me, it just wasn't fun. So like the combat wasn't good. I didn't like the setting. I didn't like the characters. Like there's not even something I can glob onto just besides the idea. The idea is fun. The idea of having a Final Fantasy Souls game, which is not this, is a fun idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's about it. Back to the drawing board.
Back to complete rebuild on that one. Metroid Dread, after like 18 long years, is here in October. I think this looks. I'm pumped for this. Okay. I'm very excited about this. I love the idea of just more Metroid that's 2D. Something we haven't had in like 18 years outside of like the one remake that came out a couple of years ago. But it looked fine. I think this is one of those things where, and I think you were the one that mentioned it to me right away when I was like, oh shit, new Metroid, this is great. And the trailer finished up, and I think you sent me something like, if that didn't say Metroid, would you have cared?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what this is going to come down to, is that there's been like 18 years worth of iteration on like the Metroid franchise, or on the Metroid concept. And Metroidvanias, I think, have like really come to be that like indie darling style of the game, where like there are so many great indie games that all fit into that Metroidvania style. So it's like, is Metroid still worthy of being like the best of the best?
Is it worthy enough of being like the genre? Like, it's called a
Metroidvania. Exactly. Like, and that's the thing, where like this has been iterated on so much that even if you go back to like Zero Mission and Fusion, and those, I absolutely adore those games. I love those games. Even if you go back to those, is that good enough for a Metroidvania in 2021?
Yeah. And it's wild too. Yeah, it's wild too, because they're I mean, not to get there. I mean, it's like, is it going to be better than Hollow Knight?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you don't like Hollow Knight. I forgot about that. Sure.
And the hook is cool. The thing that can't kill you, that's kind of chasing you down. Always interesting. My mind always goes to Resident Evil when you're trying to describe that. Interesting idea. They did say there's like a couple of like limited weapons that can freeze it, lock it, kill it, that sort of thing. So it looks good. I'm all about it. I will be buying it right away. I love Metroid as a franchise. Loved all those old 2D games. So I'm in, but it's one of those things where like this is winning on name recognition right now.
Sure.
If you take the name off, I think this looked like a pretty solid Metroidvania.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have the like fervor that it has right now.
Yeah. I want to be like super hyped for this. Like, I want to be hyped with everybody else, because I'm really curious about Metroid games. I've played a little bit of Super Metroid, but not much else. But yeah, my impression was like, I wish this looked cooler. I don't know, it looked better. It looked kind of what you said. If it didn't have the Metroid name, I don't know. And it's competition is really stiff, right? It's like really strong right now with those. It's like I can't imagine, because that team has made two other Metroidvania games before. It made Mirror of Fate,
which is pretty solid. Actually, I played that like 6 or 7 months ago. Actually, not bad.
Oh, do you really? Oh, okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's pretty solid.
Good. Okay, yeah.
Weird technical issues, but pretty solid.
Sure, and then they also made the other Metroid remake. They've made okay ones, it sounds like.
Yes, I didn't play the Metroid remake, but the Castlevania one is it's a solid like 7 out of
10. And it sucks that they have to carry the Metroid name and then just like come out and that's sort of like, you know.
I mean, they are co-producing it with the old Metroid team from Nintendo, so it's like not just solely them on this, from what I understand. So Mercury Steam is the company we're talking about. So I don't know, it'll be interesting.
It will be.
So just to kind of get this wrapped up here, a few more that I don't think we necessarily have a lot to say. Either we didn't see much, or just there's not much to talk about here. So just some kind of quick ones here. Forza Horizon 5, damn, like. Yeah,
that looked really cool. I like Forza Horizon.
I also enjoy Forza Horizon, and it's just the look of that is insane. Everything looked looked amazing. It looks photorealistic in spots. It's just crazy.
I actually thought that was a Forza Motorsport trailer. I was like, here's a really good looking game. And I was just like, no, that's Horizon.
This is the one that's also fun.
I just feel like, I don't know what happened to Motorsport. I just feel like they didn't talk about it. I thought that was like really crazy. They didn't talk about it. It's like,
see, and in my mind, that one came out last year, so it's like a Horizon year because they like alternate every other year.
Yeah.
So I just assumed in my mind that came out last year, but I guess it didn't. So
No, it did not. Yeah.
anyway, the next few are kind of some smaller games that you kind of picked out here.
Yep.
I don't know much about these. Inscryption.
Yes. I didn't know I liked I didn't know I like indie card games until I played Slay the Spire.
Which
so
is
now
sick.
anytime which is very sick. Anytime like there's a new card gamey sort of thing, I'm like, I might like this because it solves my problem with board games, which is the setup. And I don't have to set these up. And it turns out I actually do like board games. I just like setting them up. I thought Inscryption was cool just because it had a really neat setting. It's set in looks like a cabin that's kind of like a I don't know what you call it, kind of like a puzzle box cabin. Like, there's like, you're putting keys into things and unlocking things. And in the corner of the cabin, there's just this very spooky man that you play this weird card game with. It just seemed like a really kind of fun, weird indie spin on just like normal card games. I think I was more interested in the setting than the fact that it's a card game. And the setting just looked really cool. Just like a dark cabin at night. And then the person that you're playing against, you can only see their eyes. It's just a very cool looking thing. Most of the indie stuff I liked was like a cool looking thing. I have no idea if it's gonna be fun. So
I mean, but I feel like that's like half the battle. Like we talked about with what was that one? Replaced.
Yeah.
Feel free to correct me because this is gonna sound stupid. Dordogne. Oh, that makes sense. I'm going way too phonetically there.
Yeah.
Says dog in the middle.
Yeah, I thought this one was really cool. I've actually been following this game on Twitter for a bit. Everything is it seems like all the backgrounds are hand painted, so it just looks like a moving hand painted sort of creation. And it's also a photography game, and I think photography games are always fun and sort of chill to play. I do need to play Umurangi. I'm very excited to play that, but I just like the idea of just like I'm always liking exploring new art styles, and I feel like hand painted is one people have sort of played in but never got quite right. Mm-hmm. Like Child of Light was kind of hand painted. It kind of looked nice, but there's just something about this one particularly. It's like, oh no, this actually looks like actual hand painting, not the impression of hand painting, which I really, really liked. And it does a mix of 2D and 3D. That's really, really slick looking, and really like that as well.
Moonglow Bay.
I'm surprised you don't like. I'm surprised you don't like these ones. That I think they're super interesting.
So so the card game one was just kind of whatever. The hand painted one was one of those ones where it's like, this looks incredible to me.
Yeah.
I think in your mind, like if a game looks cool, like you're in. To me, it's like it looks cool, but like,
sure.
What am I doing? And from the minute trailer I watched, I was like, I'm just looking at cool paintings, which is awesome. These look insane and amazing and beautiful. But what am I doing?
It is funny because I think there's definitely that sort of like what people like about games, and to me, like a game can win me over on just its art style, or just like it just needs to be good at one thing. If it's super good at that one thing, then I'm like totally in on it. So if it's really good art style, it's hard. I think it's hard for me too to see mechanics. It's hard for me to get excited about mechanics when I play it. Like I do like game mechanics, but it's really hard for somebody, maybe in a trailer or just even a developer talking, like when they're talking about the mechanics, I'm like, I don't know, that sounds kind of boring. Like, it doesn't matter what it is.
That sounds like a video game.
Yeah. It's like in Devil May Cry, you have a slashing action, and then you pull back to do a jumping. And it's like, I love playing Devil May Cry. I hate people talking about it. So the other thing I really have to go on is like tone and art style. So if your tone and your art style is cool, then I'm like in. And also I really like fishing game. Well, I like a fishing game. Which is why I'm excited for Moonglow Bay. So Moonglow Bay is a game you walk around town and you go fishing. And the reason I'm excited for Moonglow Bay is because one of my favorite games of all time is called Big Ol' Bass 2, which is a game that nobody played. And it was a PlayStation 1 game, and the thing that was cool is that you got to catch fantasy fish. And that was like the only game I've played where instead of just catching bass, you caught a T-Rex at the end. It's a super cool game. And I'm just like, okay, maybe this is the fantasy fishing game. Like, I just want to catch a dragon.
The one where you're walking in and out of shops and having like casual conversations with townspeople. That's the one where the dragon's in the water.
I just feel like you could catch some cool stuff here. I'm hoping it's not just bass. Like, I want to catch like a mystical river dragon. Just give me something fun to catch. And anytime I see a new fishing game that's not just like pro bassing fishing 2021, I'm like, this could be the one. This could be the one where you catch something that's not just bass.
Did you play the 15 one? Isn't that the whole premise of the 15 one?
I didn't play the 15 one, but I played the 15 mini game and you just catch fucking bass.
Yeah,
They're
but
not
the
even,
15 one, like the cover art is you catching some big ass weird looking fish.
that game, but I understand. I didn't play the individual game. I'm just saying I was.
So you didn't play the one with the big weird fantasy fish on the cover, but you.
It was a VR. It was a VR game.
Was,
I mean,
oh,
I'm
it was
gonna.
VR.
Yeah, it was a
Okay,
VR.
okay.
And but I will tell you, I was super disappointed with the normal fishing 15 because you don't catch fantasy fish. You just catch weird bass, which is not exciting. Final Fantasy. Let me catch a Leviathan.
Your shit together.
Yeah, let me catch Leviathan, or a little Leviathan, or whatever.
Atomic Heart, which is one of those games where I see the trailer and it's like, this can go one of two ways.
Sure.
This will be the start of an amazingly cool new first-person shooter series, or it will just be boring, average, and blah. And I could not pick out what it was from this trailer.
Aesthetically, it looks amazing, but it also, I don't know, there's just a lot of, I feel like indie shooters, unless they're like trying to be Quake, they don't usually feel well. They don't feel great.
Yeah.
They don't, you know, there's something about them. Like the ones that are trying to be Quake feel really good, but the ones that aren't trying to be Quake or try to be like, you know, our tour Half-Life 2 stuff, like there's just something about the shooting that never feels like quite right, or that, you know, and that's definitely feels like that because it's definitely got its tone is really cool. I thought the trailer's really fun. The setting looks incredible. It could just not play well and just completely fall apart because of that. But we just don't know.
And that was my thought. It was like, this looks like cool Kojima stuff with some of the things that are going on. So maybe there's some cool stuff here, some cool world building, but like, I need to see something of this game in action to really get a good picture of it.
Yeah, exactly.
SMT5 looked good. I'm still pumped on this. I literally just finished 3, which is the first one I ever played like 12 hours ago. So I'm pumped to try this one. It looks like a cool evolution from that. There's cool stuff in SMT, but I don't.
What is the okay? So the thing with the SMT5 trailer that I didn't quite get is like, so from what I understand, SMT games usually have a cool story, and they didn't talk about the story in this. So is that what is the hook of SMT? Because like I'm familiar with Persona. I know Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, but is there something about the Shin Megami Tensei like in of itself that you're like, okay, I played 3. These are the things I liked about 3 that I can't wait to see in 5.
It's cool demon Pokemon.
Okay.
And again, it's having just finished up 3, and that's the only one I've played. The story looks similar, which is like you're a normal person in normal world, and you end up as like this weird, powerful demon that can talk with demons and control demons in these weird like apocalyptic worlds. And again, I don't know the setup for this one. In 3, it's basically that like the world ends, and this is like the in-between world where like you have to, as the slightly powerful demon, kind of pick out how creation is going to go for the next world that comes.
Yeah.
So there's some cool different things there that I don't think are explored very often. So again, 5, the trailer for this didn't really speak too much to story. So again, I kind of got the gist of it because I was like, oh, okay, it's the similar. It feels like it's got kind of the same deal as like Final Fantasy, like, oh, you're the lone hero going and getting your party to create, where it's like, oh, you are the demi-fiend, you are the one chosen to determine what happens in the apocalyptic world. Like, okay, yep,
I think that's really, I think it's really funny though. Like Final Fantasy is like the crystals are what binds all Final Fantasy games together, and SMT games like the world ending is what binds all SMT.
Everything
a
went
feeling
to
of
hell.
Hopelessness and dread and nihilism. That's what brings the SMT franchise together.
And that's true. And that again, it's a cool perspective that I don't think JRPGs are so bubbly and happy and everything's gonna be great and ooh, that guy's bad. Whereas SMT like 3, like I said, I just finished, and it's like I did what I would have considered the good path, and like the last boss basically called me Lucifer for the horrible choices I made. So it's like, granted, you're the final boss, so you probably don't have the right perspective. He's like, but again, it's like that type of stuff where it's just like there's so much like despair and dread and like so many bad things happening. It's like, okay, that's kind of a fun play on this.
Yeah.
All right. So just to wrap it up, 2 last couple other quick things from Nintendo. They announced the Danganronpa collection. If you're going to talk about Danganronpa, I'm going to say go play Danganronpa. And then they brought back Advanced Wars with updated graphics, everything 1 and 2 built from the ground up, I think is what they said. And it looks like awesome Advanced Wars, and Advanced Wars was a ton of fun. If you're into like RTS stuff, it's like the perfect like slimmed down console manageable version where you're not trying to manage like 37 keys worth of stuff on a controller with 12 buttons. So I'm excited to try it again. I haven't played it since like I had a Game Boy Advance, so maybe it's not as cool as I remember, but something I'm pumped for.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. I never played it, but I remember kids playing. I remember in high school, middle school, kids were playing and saying like, "This game's amazing." I just didn't have a Game Boy to play it, so very excited.
Well,
I'm actually really excited for that. Yeah.
Now you got to Switch. To wrap it up, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming in quote unquote 2022. Mm-hmm. It looks like Breath of the Wild, but you're in the sky.
Yep. I don't know. It looks. I do like when people talk. I wish I like Zelda the way that people like Zelda, where they're just like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much to dig into in this trailer." I was like, kind of just looks like, yeah, like you said, Breath of the Wild 2. It's in the sky, and there's some new mechanics at play, and the story's going to be disappointing. Yeah. Whatever you're saying the story's going to be, it's not going to be that. It's going to be the more boring version of whatever you just said.
Yeah, Zelda, admittedly, is like the one Nintendo franchise that's like, I'm just not really my jam. Like, it's fine. Yeah. I enjoy it. I like Breath of the Wild. I'd say that was one of the better games I've ever played. Am I excited for it? Sure.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think just they're very good at mechanics. I think unless you're like really into the characters, like if you're super into that story, then I think it's cool. But I think mechanically they're always interesting. But it's just if you're just not into Zelda, like the characters, then it's like there's not a lot I think to like really dive into on that trailer at least. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm sure we missed something.
I like that we talked about Plague 2 Requiem like way more than Zelda 2, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2.
Hey, it's our podcast video thing, whatever. We're going to talk about the stuff that, like, we're going to talk about. I'm sure there are many, many more capable people to give you a deep dive into every weird aspect of Breath of the Wild 2, but to me, literally, my note was sky stuff.
Yeah. It's Breath of the Wild and sky stuff. Yeah, it's all right, cool.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe there's a connection to Skyward Sword. Never played Skyward Sword, but that one's also in the sky. There's my Zelda
Great
theory.
Analysis, Brad. Great analysis, Brad.
Well, with that excellent point, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us where you're listening, and we will see you later.
See ya.